said with them. All right, we are here in Columbus, Ohio. Today is August 29th, 1997. We are here with Chester. And Chester, would you like to pronounce your last name?
My last name is Andrzejczak.
Okay. We are here with an interview for the Oral History Department at ACU. And I will go ahead and start asking you a couple simple questions. When were you born and where?
I was born in Evanston, Illinois on September 19th, 1923.
Okay. What did your father do for a living?
Well, we had a stepfather, and those days there weren't too many jobs available, but anyway, he worked in a brickyard, making bricks close to home.
What was your mother do? What did your mother do?
My mother just had a job taking care of the house and the kids. My real father got killed by a train when I was maybe 3 years old, and we had a boarder at the house at that time, and when my dad got killed, I guess this boarder had taken over, and well, the story is my real father asked Tony, the boarder, one day, he said, what's going to happen to my children if something happens to me? And Tony, the boarder, said, don't worry about it, Mike. He says, I'll take care of them. And at the time, there were 5 children, from 3 up until maybe 12 and 13. So I guess it wasn't long after, maybe 6 months after, that he married my mother, and this is the father that I really remember.
And did you feel comfortable with him as a father? Did you feel like he was a good father to you?
Oh yes, yeah, I did. He was really a wonderful man. Whatever the kids wanted, he was right there. Even in the hard times, he would do whatever he could to get the kids whatever they wanted.
Good. You said that there were 5 children.
Right.
You were the youngest.
Pardon?
Were you the youngest?
No, I had a sister that was younger than me. I had my oldest sister and brother that were both born in Poland and come to America when they were maybe about 10 or 11 years old. Then I had an older brother, Joe, and then after Joe I came, and then my sister Jane was the youngest one at the time, maybe, I don't know, maybe a year old, maybe a year and a half old. And then we have a stepbrother, another brother named Tony that, my mother had with our stepfather.
That's a good-sized family.
Pardon?
That's a good-sized family.
Yes, it was, yeah.
What was the Depression? How was the Depression an effect in your life? Do you recall?
How was it?
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. It wasn't much to be had as far as food and things. No money. We used to have to go downtown Evanston to the relief board, where you got your share of groceries for the week. In fact, I can remember pulling a little wagon with my dad going down there, say maybe maybe 2 or 3 miles to town, to pick up whatever you could get from the relief board, so that we had something to eat.
So were you in a city, or was it more like ranching area?
Yes, we were in the city, but kind of maybe towards the outskirts a little bit, at the edge of the city.
So what did you do for fun as a child?
What did we do for fun? Well, truthfully, there wasn't really much. We had a park, a big park, only a block away, where we could go play ball, football, or baseball, and ice skating in the wintertime. That was about it. As far as going to the movies, there wasn't even. Movies were cheap. You could get into the movies for a nickel or a dime, but a lot of times you didn't even have that. So you just did whatever you could, probably mostly just hanging around with the neighborhood boys and getting into mischief.
What education did you complete? Did you?
I went to through 3 years of high school, and I quit. I wanted to go to work and make money. My oldest brother at the time was working for a fella in a garage, storage and repairs, and I quit school so I could go to work for him, and making maybe $10 a week. And my older sister begged me to finish high school, and but I wouldn't hear it. Later on, I realized that I should have probably finished school, because I had so many plans, that I would like to do, but all of these, needed some education, and I didn't really have, that much. And the best part, the worst part is I was always good, and I had good grades, good students, and never had any problems with school. But it's just, I don't know, I just had this idea that I wanted to make money, and that was it. I quit school. But
So how old were you when you joined the service?
I was, well, this is another story. See, I wanted to join when the war broke out. I was, in 41, I was about 18 years old. And like many of the other fellas, in town, there are very few jobs available, and there got to be a rush to the recruiting station to join the services, and I was also ready to go, but my mother and dad said I was too young, and they wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't sign the paper so that I could go in, but. Anyway, I got, back to my old routine, and then down the line, always I got in trouble with the law, so I was put on probation, and I kind of blame my mother for that, because I kept playing these guilt trips on her that, if you'd let me go on when I wanted to, I wouldn't have gotten in trouble. But eventually she decided she ought to better let me go, so she did, and I had intended to join the Navy, but then when I went to see the Navy recruiter, they wouldn't take me because I had a record. So anyway, I said, well, to heck with them, I'll go and join the Army. So I went over to the Army recruiter, and he said, yeah, he says, if you get a release from your probation officer, we'll take you. So anyway, my mother had agreed to let me go by then, and I got the release from the probation officer and signed up to join the Army. And was sent to Fort Sheridan in Illinois, where we underwent some orientation and things like that. And then we were sent to, from there we were sent to Camp Campbell to join the 12th Armored Division.
So how long were you in Sheridan?
In the service, about 3.5 years.
How long were you at Sheridan at camp?
Oh, in Sheridan. I was there maybe a week at the most. And then they sent us to Camp Campbell, where we did our basic training. And after basic training, I was assigned to the 495th Field Artillery. And I heard while in the artillery, I seen a notice on I was a motorcycle messenger in the artillery, but there was a notice on a bulletin board that they were looking for guys who could ride a motorcycle to join the MPs. So I thought this is a good deal for me. So anyway, I signed up, told the first sergeant I wanted to go, and he put in for a transfer. And in the meantime, I was supposed to be shipped out the next morning, and usually every morning the officers come through and make sure that they check out the beds and see if everybody's got their beds made up and things put away the way they should be. And I had my mattress rolled up and all my stuff, and he was surprised. He says, what are you doing? I said, I'm being transferred to the military police. And he didn't say much, but the transfer had already gone through, and I guess I heard our sergeant had gotten bawled out because sent me out because I was the only one in the outfit that knew how to ride a motorcycle. So anyway, I did get transferred to the military police.
When was that?
That was in early 1943.
So where was that? Where did you get your training there?
Oh, at Camp Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
Oh, I did. I loved it because they had 16 motorcycles in the MPs, and eventually I got to do all the maintenance, all the mechanical work on the motorcycles, and also some of our duties there were escorting convoys, motorcycle escort whenever there were convoys, and also we would go into town, into Abilene, when we were, this was later in Barclay, but when we would have to check all the taverns on the outskirts of town, make sure that no soldiers out there causing any trouble. But that only lasted until we were getting ready to be shipped out of Camp Barclay to go overseas, and they took away the motorcycles and gave us Jeeps instead, but we went overseas. I stayed with them up until about Herlisheim, one of the last big battles they had in Herlisheim. And our duties at the time then were to pick up any prisoners that had surrendered and take them back for interrogation. And one day after a big battle, a German counterattack, we went up towards the front lines to look around, and we could see this big open field with all kinds of dead bodies around it. So I told my friend, my buddy, you know, come on, let's go out and take a look. So we went out there on the field. There were just the two of us alone, and big open field. There was a barn and a house on one side, a big wooded area on the other end, and we got out there and started walking around, and evidently we must have been observed by the Germans from an observation post, because they let loose with about 3 rounds from artillery shells, you know, and we started running towards the house, but by the time we got there, they had quit firing. So anyway, we went back. So we better get out of here. So we went back to our outfit, and this is the well, I shouldn't say funny part, but one of the biggest things I think that I have ever done, you know, is when I seen all these bodies and things laying around out there, and we started walking back, I got the urge to join the infantry, and prior to that, whenever we were at home, heard the news about what Hitler had done to Poland and the Polish people, I used to get, you know, even then I was 15 or 16, I was getting angry, you know, and wishing, boy, I was there, that I could do something. But anyway, like I said, my mom and dad were born in Poland, and my oldest brother and sister. And at the time I thought, boy, this would be the time for me to get in and join the infantry, and maybe I could get some personal revenge. And the more I thought about it, the more I decided I was going to go. So I got back to our company, and I met my first sergeant, who asked me what I wanted, and I told him I wanted to join the infantry. And evidently he thought I was just joking and kind of sloughed it off, but got back to me a little bit later and said, Andy, what do you really want? I said, I told you I want to join the infantry. So he put in for a transfer for me, and the next morning I was called in by my commanding officer, who asked me, what's this I hear about you wanting to join the infantry? I said, yes, sir. Well, what's the matter? He says, are you mad at somebody? Don't you like the company? I said, no. I said, I have no hard feelings about anything. I just want to get in where there's some action. He says, well, why don't you think about it a couple of days, and if you still want to go, he says, I'll let you go. I come back 2 days later, and he asked me if I still wanted to go. I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I don't get it, but he said, if you want to go, I can't hold you. So the following morning, I was shipped to the infantry outfit, where they put me in A Company 56th, and met the commanding officer that following morning. He says, I understand you're a volunteer. Yes, sir. He said, well, if we had more men like you, we would have had this war over with a long time ago. And I can go on from there. After, you know, we got a few days on a line, we had lost a squad leader and an assistant squad leader. The infantry has rifle squads, machine gun squads, 12 men in a squad, in each squad. And they have a mortar squad, machine gun squad, rifle squad, and anyway, I was put into the rifle squad, and like I said, we lost squad leader and also an assistant, because there were almost daily there were being new replacements coming in. Somebody's always getting shot or wounded, and After a couple of days, like I said, we lost the squad leader and assistant squad leader. And I was called in to see the commander of the infantry, and when I walked in, he said, Andrzejczak, I'm putting you in charge of the 2nd Rifle Squad. And I thought, God, there's guys here that had infantry training. And I said, I didn't want the job because I never had no infantry training. I said, some of these other fellas got more training than I have in infantry. And he said, well, you've been on a line for 3 days, haven't you? I said, yes, sir. He says, you got more training than any of these guys have. He said, you're in charge of the squad and you're dismissed. So that was the beginning kind of my, well, I don't know how should I put it, exciting days to come.
Where were you at that point?
Pardon?
Do you remember where you were?
Oh, the name of the towns?
In Germany, or?
Not too many, no. I don't, that I can recall. But from there we moved on to a wooded area where we had another big battle. And as we were going through the woods, we come to a T intersection. And there was a road that come off of the T, went over towards the right, but the road looked kind of suspicious, I guess, and rather than have all the infantry or people try and cross the road at the same time, you know, they would send out a scouting patrol. And naturally, I got called again to go out to check to see if there were any machine guns or anything at the end of this wooded area. And about a third of the way out there, one of my men hollered out, Andy, that's far enough, I can see him. He was looking far ahead and I was looking closer. And when I looked up, I could see him, and we started back, running back, when all of a sudden we heard a machine gun open up. Well, we hit the ground and start crawling on our belly to the deeper into the woods where we wouldn't be seen, and then got up and ran. And it was a morning where we had snow on the ground. Everybody got back but one man, and I thought I had lost him, but later on he got come back, and he says, I don't know what happened. He says, I was laying there in the snow, and I come to, he says, nobody around, so I just ran back. But a little bit later on, most of the other fellas were down in the basement in the cellar of this old farmhouse because the Germans started shelling with artillery, and they were shelling what they call the tree bursts. These shells were set up so that when they touched the top of the trees, they would explode up in the air and send shrapnel out in a wide area, you know. And they had a lot of wounded men out there. And somebody had told me, there's one of your men down in the basement, something wrong with him. Well, when I went down there, I guess he was shell-shocked, you know, and he grabbed my pants and I couldn't even pry him loose, you know. But anyway, send him back with the medics. They were taking some wounded back, so he went along with him. But in the meantime, there were other medics that were looking for help. They needed help going into that wooded area, and they asked for volunteers, but nobody wanted to volunteer. So anyway, I stood there and I thought, well, somebody's got to go, you know. So I thought, well, I'll put my helmet down and my rifle. According to Geneva Convention, if you're in battle and you have a lot of wounded, you put your rifle down and your helmet. They're not supposed to shoot at you, you know. But anyway, we got up to the edge of the road and made a mad dash across the road. We got about the middle, heard machine guns open up again, and made a big dive for the culvert on the other side, and we did make it, and were able to go into the woods and help all these wounded soldiers out there. And for that, I was awarded the Bronze Star Medal. And well, from there, you know, it was we would mount up again. The armored infantry usually traveled in half tracks, and if you got to a point where you run into resistance or whatever, the convoy stops and the infantry gets out and goes on foot up ahead to clear out or take care of anything that's going on. From there we moved on over towards the Rhine River, where they had a pontoon bridge that was set up by the combat engineers, and when we got there they had put across on this pontoon bridge the other side of the Rhine River. And when the rest of the company got across and got assembled again, we started walking towards the town, a little village out there, farm village, but we come across another small river, you know, and no way to get across, so we have to wait for the combat engineers to come in with rowboats and row us across, get us on the other side. And again, when the whole company assembled on the other side of the river, this was another situation where you don't send the whole company out. You tell one squad leader, take your squad and go out on a scouting patrol in town, see if there's any German troops. So I was again called to take your squad, go in on a patrol, go into the village, see if there's any German soldiers. And it was a big, bright, beautiful day, sunshine, about 10 o'clock in the morning, and as we walked across this open field, we spotted foxholes dug here and there, only nobody in them. And we kind of ran from one tree to the next, trying to take as much cover as you could find, you know. When I looked and seen a civilian coming up, a civilian man coming down the road, coming to meet us. And as we got closer, he hollered out if anybody understood Polish. So naturally I said, yeah, I said, I do. He says, telling me, well, he says, you don't have to worry. There's no German troops in town. They all pulled out last night. But being suspicious, I wasn't sure whether maybe he was a German soldier who could speak Polish, because there was a lot of that English-speaking Germans too, that, you know. And so we went into town, and he told me how the town was laid out. There's a fork in a road on this end, which one road takes you on this side of town, the other one on the other side, and they come back together on the opposite end of the town. So anyway, I put two men up there. I said, you two go over there and, like an outpost, pick up any stragglers or whatever, and two on this end, and then I had to get word back to our commanding officer what we had found, that the town was secured, there were no German troops, and what do you want us to do? Now, only our radio was on a bum and couldn't get in touch with them by radio. But there was a bicycle laying there, so I told one of my men, I said, grab that bicycle. He said, go back and tell the commander what we've done here. So That he did, and come back and said, well, he said, just stay where you are. The company will be moving up later. So in the meantime, this Polish fellow says, well, he says, they'll be okay now. He says, they're, they got both ends of the town covered. Come on with me. So we proceeded to walk on down the street, and he hollered in German for all these people that were peeking out their windows to get those white flags out, and pretty soon there were white sheets and pillowcases and flags flying all over. And in the meantime, he had taken me where he lived. He was worked on a farm there, a German farm, and brought out a couple of wine bottles and had breakfast of ham and eggs and the works, And before our company, the rest of our company arrived in town, we seen another division that was passing through. It was the 3rd Infantry Division that was going to go past us, bypass us, and go to the next town, only to capture one of the biggest German generals, General von Rundstedt, in town, who had surrendered to them. But I felt kind of bad because I thought, we should have probably been the ones to make that big catch, but and then with the armored divisions, usually when we're spearheading or moving, you have 2 tanks up in front. And always, because if the column gets stopped for any reason, you can't expect the tankers to jump out and go up ahead and check, So you take a squad, rifle squad, and split them up, put 4 men on each tank up front. So if they get stopped, you just jump off and go up ahead and check out whatever's holding up the convoy. Then and every other day, one company doesn't stay in a lead every day, so we switch off. A company takes the lead one day, and B company is the backup company, and vice versa. So anyway, we were rolling around through Germany, coming up to a town. B company was in the lead that day, and anyway, they run into a little resistance, I think, and the convoy stopped, and we wound up sitting about a half a mile back from the lead convoy, and alongside an open field. And as we sat there waiting, I noticed that there was a gun, anti-aircraft gun, that was in a bunker. You could see part of it sticking out. So I said something, hey, go check that bunker out. So one of the men went over there and left his gun in a half-track, his rifle, and went up there, and all of a sudden I said, look, he's got 4 Germans. He pulled a hand grenade and had them surrender, and took them prisoners. But then I got curious to see what this bunker looked like and how they lived, because it was underground and they had bunk beds there. They ate and slept there, and I went in there, went up there and crossed the field and got down in there and looked around. And then when I was ready to go, I got out and got up on the ground, and all of a sudden I heard a machine gun open up. I said, oh God. And you could always tell the sound on these guns if they were German or if they were American. And this was an American machine gun. It was a 50 caliber machine gun. Evidently these people, the troops up ahead, could probably see us out there as far as the field goes and opened fire, you know, thinking maybe we were German troops. But then I wondered how we were going to get out of here, and said, well, we can't sit here because if the convoy pulls out, we're going to be left sitting in a hole here, so we have to take a chance. We jumped up, and I said, when I said go, I said jump up and we'll run like hell. Well, we did, and evidently whoever shot before must have realized that we were American troops, you know, and didn't fire anymore. But from then on, you know, I can tell you they're not really, I'm not sure whether this is the sequence that they were, but you know, all these encounters. But then General Patton was getting ready for a big push across Germany. The 12th Armored Division was told to blank out all their insignias and lettering on all their vehicles and take off your shoulder pads so they wouldn't know who it was, you know. And this is where we got the name of the Mystery Division. And we were ordered to go over to 3rd Army and spearhead for Patton. And again, when they're spearheading, they usually have 2 tanks up in the front with half-track and infantry behind, but also you had to have infantrymen riding on the back of the tanks. So naturally, I was picked again to take my squad and ride the tanks. And I couldn't hardly tell these other fellows to take the lead tank. I'll be in the back. I had to go up front and the other fellows in the back. But anyway, we rolled on for 60 miles through enemy territory in one day, and hardly ever encountered any German soldiers, because once we broke through, it was just wide open as fast as these tanks could go. And till it was getting kind of towards evening, and we went through this little village, and once we got the other side of it, there was a bridge, and it was loaded with old tree stumps and horse wagons and things like that. And the convoy come to a stop. We had to jump off of the tanks, and I had 2 men go on each side. And when we got up there, I noticed that there were movement down below on the bank, and I hollered out for them to come out and surrender, while we had 1 come up, and then 2 and 3, and then some on the other side. And before it was all over, we had captured about 30 German soldiers, and that was all that was going to give up, the 30 of them. So we still had to remove the tree stumps and things off of that bridge. Well, then, and also I went underneath the bridge to check that, see it wasn't wired up with bombs or whatever. And rather than put my men in jeopardy, I told the German soldiers to get out there and clean out that bridge, and which they did reluctantly, but told our commanding officer that everything was clear, and he said, well, mount up. He says, we're going to roll out again. So anyway, we mounted up, and about 3 vehicles got across the bridge when all of a sudden we heard artillery open up. And they were shooting for the lead tank. But it happened that when you come off the bridge, the road was about 4, maybe 5 feet higher than the rest of the field below. And when they fired, they were shooting low so that they hit the bank just below the tanks, you know. And the concussion was so great that, you know, it just blew the hard hats right off your those steel helmets right off your head, about 3 times in a row. The tanker started backing up. The half-track couldn't get out quick enough. So you ran over the front wheel of that half-track and knocking it off completely. But we did eventually, we jumped off, and while they were backing up, we were, with our rifles there, just shooting randomly, in any direction, just in case, and got back into town, and where we spent the rest of the night there, overnight, at this town. Then we were told to go make a right turn and start heading for the Brenner Pass in Italy. The Brenner Pass was a road that was cut through the mountains. The only road that would take you in and out of Italy, from Austria and Germany. And we were to get down there and cut off the Germans who were trying to escape, But before we got there, we got word that the war was over. So naturally, coming back, the commanding officer took the lead. There was no need for tanks in the lead. Commander was leading convoy with a jeep, and we were all everybody was relaxed and just laying back on this road, when all of a sudden, the other side of the field, a big wooded area, German artillery fired on our convoy. Maybe 2 or 3 shots. None of them hit any of our vehicles, but we had one tank that was mounted with 48 rockets, 2 rows of rockets in a row mounted right across the top of the tank, and they could fire these all at one time or one at a time, and they just turned that tank around in the direction of the woods and let loose. Well, all you could see was white flags out there on the other side of the field, and we just kept running towards our convoy. They were giving up. Well, when they got there, they wondered what the heck was it. They had never heard anything like that before, these rockets, 48 rockets off it all fired at one time. And well, that was our last encounter with the Germans, and then we headed back to where the rest of the division was gonna meet and get together again. But there were so many these moments, that were really tough, but in the end, all I can remember, was the heartwarming scenes, of the war, where when all these slave laborers, they were forced to work for the German family, German farmers, and all the prisoners and the concentration camp victims, being freed, and to see them out there in these German towns, free, walking around doing whatever they pleased, and trying to find their way back to their own countries. That was one of the most heartwarming scenes, I think, that I have ever seen.
Did you befriend any of the?
Pardon?
Did you befriend any of the civilians while you were there?
Did we?
Uh-huh.
No, we had to move on. Once the rest of the company come up, we were off again and running. But it would have been nice if I could have, met him again and seen him. But I thought too many times, when I took on a job as the squad leader in the infantry. There were so many fellas, that's all you heard. Every other week they were replacing the squad leader or somebody, and I thought, there at the beginning, well, I wonder, how long it'll be before I get replaced. But I got to say the Lord was good to me.
Were you ever injured?
No. That's what I see. I never, I went through the rest of the war. I know he led me through that war with all the close calls I had. Just too many to even count. I can't remember, but it was almost daily that, you got missed by an artillery shell or a machine gun, and I knew that, I couldn't, these are not just one coincidence after another. Somebody was looking out, and I gotta say, I got back home safely and never even got a scratch. So,
you're one of the few.
One of the few, yeah.
Who were some of your friends that were in the company with you?
Oh, we had Sergeant Trusty. He was a squad leader. In fact, he had. This was in Spire on the Rhine River, where we crossed that pontoon bridge. There got to be a big battle over there, and as we were moving out across this, the field was plowed, before we come into town, and it was hard to see if there was any foxholes dug, until you got up on top of them. But I got into the edge of town, and then I guess we lost a platoon leader there in Spire, got shot, got killed, and Trusty, who was sergeant before I took over, had lost his arm over there. The Germans were using anti-aircraft guns, on the troops, and he had his arm blown off. And as he was walking back, I couldn't believe it. Big grin on his face, and his arm was only hanging by a piece of skin. And he says, well, Andy, I'll see you. I'm good for the States now, So that was, for him, that was the end of the war, but we still see him. In fact, was supposed to be here for this reunion. We talked to him, but he'll probably come in maybe last minute or something. And, I guess a lot of the others, but, at the time there was so much changing of men replacements coming in and guys getting shot and going out that really didn't get too much of a chance to get too acquainted with most of the guys,
What do you remember about the day they announced that the war was ended?
Pardon?
What do you remember of the day that they announced the war had ended?
What was the day?
What did you do? Do you remember how you celebrated?
Oh, what did we do? Well, really, we didn't do anything. We were in a convoy heading back towards the division. See, we were so far out, so there wasn't really much to celebrate out there on the open road, But I guess there were big doings in town, where some of the troops were stationed. But
did you have enough points at the end of the war to go home, or did you still have to?
No, I didn't. But this is to some people. When I tell them, I wanted to volunteer for the infantry, it was crazy. But when the war ended in Germany, I had no desire to rush back home. In fact, the war was still going on in Japan, and I thought, I'm gonna sign up. They can ship me from Europe, ship me over to Japan, so I can get in to fight that war in Japan. But before they would do that, they had to send you back to the States for say for arrest and whatever, before they would ship you out anyplace else, you know. And I didn't really want to go back to the States, you know. And if they would ship me, I would have went right to Japan, but it's something that they wouldn't do, you know. And don't ask me why, you know, I had all these feelings like I had to be there, and even going to Japan. I still think about it many times and wonder myself, you know, why. Today I think differently, but I wouldn't do some of the things I did then, but I don't know. I think I knew somebody was looking out for me, and so leave it in his hands.
What did you think of General Patton's decisions during the war?
Oh, Patton, yeah, he was super guy, yeah, really.
Were there some soldiers in your company that were kind of hesitant?
Hesitant?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had them where we had guys that were scared all the time, you know. In fact, we had a convoy going on the Autobahn. You know, that's a super highway at the time, you know. And we went through an area where it's a wooded area far off, you know, and all of a sudden the Germans started shooting, you know, artillery shooting at the vehicles that were going. Well, the convoy stopped, I guess, so they could turn some of their maybe tanks around and fire into the woods. But in the meantime, we had one fellow I remember, his name was Deal, that when they started shooting, well, they were so close, you know, actually you could feel the breeze when the shell went over the top of our half-track, you know, you could feel the breeze when it went by. But this fellow was, and you never know, we had to pull out instantly, you know, and he would jump out of the half-track and run for the ditch, you know, until the shelling stopped. Say, stay in here, you sit in this, stay here in the half-track. But no way, you know, he wasn't going to stay there. He would jump out and run into the ditch. And the same fellow, we had these bazooka, you know, anti-tank gun, you know, that you carry and fire. And said, you carry the bazooka. And we were in the town and heard a German tank moving. Told him, get the bazooka ready and go up there behind the house, you know, in case that tank comes this way. Well, he hasn't got it. He lost it. He was so scared he didn't want to carry that. He would throw it away. And we would requisition another one. Here's another one. Don't lose this one. Well, same thing happened to that one. He would throw it away just because, you know, he would be the one that'd have to get up there closer to the tank to knock it out with the bazooka. But yeah, there were some fellas that were really scared. But
what did you do as far as discipline in that situation?
well, there wasn't really much you could do if the man was scared.
Was he transferred though to something better?
Pardon?
Was he transferred to like a different area so that he wasn't so?
No, we just let him be. he would always, you know, find a spot where he felt maybe he was safer, you know, or whatever, and that was about the way, you know. Can't hardly discipline a man for being scared.
We went over because of the time frame, but it's okay. Hello. Let's see. You are Charles, aren't you? Okay. We are almost done. Can you wait about 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Do you want me to bring out a chair after you, right?
No, yeah.
Okay. We'll come get you. Put that sign up there, but sometimes, you know, he's scheduled, and so he thought, anyway, that's all right. Like I said, these aren't.
No. We went over on in convoys, you know, with on ships, you know, but there was no problem. It's long ride. Evidently had German submarines in the area, you know, where every now and then the Navy would drop depth charges and stuff like that, you know, but other than that it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Coming back was a Liberty ship, 21 days coming back to the States from Italy, and running into a tail end of a hurricane or whatever, and just unbelievable how these little ships can take it. You'd think that they would break in two, but the waves were probably high as some skyscrapers, you know, but we made it. A lot of sick fellas on the boat, you know, seasick, and again, that never bothered me, you know. And we had meal tickets that you got tickets, you had to get it punched for breakfast, dinner, and supper. And at breakfast, you know, everybody was hanging over the rails, throwing up, and you know, there's your chance to get seconds, you know. So you're going to use your meal ticket? No. Can I have it? Yeah, go ahead. So you get back in line for seconds, but.
So you didn't seem to mind the food, huh?
No, that part never bothered me, no.
Did were any of your brothers involved in the war?
Yeah, I had two of my brothers. One of them was a stepbrother, you know, and yeah, my brother Joe was a year and a half older than I was, but he waited until he got drafted. He wasn't going to join. And then my stepbrother joined the Army too. He was sent to Japan. The war was all over already in Japan, but he was there on what do they call it? After the war was over. I forget the word, but anyway, he was sent to Japan. Occupation, Army of Occupation, yeah.
What did you, do you recall the day that you heard about Pearl Harbor being bombed?
Oh, yes, absolutely, yeah. I was maybe 17 at the time. Well, I was working for my brother in the garage, and actually he gave me an old car. One of his customers owed money, you know, on the car. He did repairs on his car and he couldn't pay him, so he gave him this car, and it was a 1933 Plymouth 4-door. So anyway, my brother gave me that for Christmas, and I can remember going down Howard Street. That was the dividing line between Evanston and Chicago, when about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when the news come over the radio that Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor. So yeah, that was probably the start of everything there, you know. And when you look at it, we were in, Julie and I are married for the second time. We were both widowed, but we went to Hawaii for our honeymoon. And to see all the things that happened over there and how the Japanese were able to get into that harbor to blow up all these ships and everything is just amazing. And it's just amazing how, you know, all the American people, even on a home front, got together and built all these ships and planes and, you know, tanks, you know. And the odds were so much against us, and yet the American people were the ones that really made a big difference, you know, to bring this war to an end, and something to be proud of.
What did you do when you returned home? Did you find work?
No, I didn't. No, my mother says, no, you just take it easy. You don't have to go to work. Just, you know, take it easy and enjoy yourself. But I bummed around for maybe a couple of months, and I thought, I don't know, come back home, and it was not the same. I thought, I'm going back in the service. So I went and seen a recruiter, and I talked to him about joining, you know, getting back in the service. Well, at the time I was married, I had one boy, and the Army wouldn't take you then because, you know, if you had family, kids. But the Air Corps would. We had O'Hare Field. That's the big airport in Chicago now, O'Hare Field. That was named after a Chicago pilot that was shot down during the war. And recruiter could get me in. I would have went in as a mechanic for the Air Force, you know, but took me over to the O'Hare Field and showed me around, and I thought, well, this not bad. I could live on the post or off the post, and then he was going to drive down to Fort Sheridan, where, you know, I would fill out the papers and be inducted. And on the way, he said, well, maybe you want to stop at your folks' home and have lunch with them. I'll pick you up in about an hour. So he did. He dropped me off, and while I was having lunch, I sat there and I was thinking, what am I doing? You know, I just got out, now I'm going back in again. I said, no. I said, when he pulled up, you know, to pick me up, I said, well, I'm sorry, but I changed my mind. So that was it.
Well, quite a story. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Aaron, did you have any questions for him? Okay, that'll be it.